So Eric's going to talk about the third wave in children's technology, and the basic premise was, what would Papert be saying right now? Seymour Papert, of course, of the author of MINDSTORMs, if he were here and about the with the iPad. So that was sort of the basic premise, right?
Well, that sounded like a really interesting talk, but kind of difficult to figure out what Pepper would say. So I decided to do something a little different from that.
That's a surprise. Eric Rosenbaum.
Thanks. Yeah, so there is some Papert in there, but a few other interesting surprises that hopefully you will enjoy. So I'm Eric. Like Warren said, I'm a graduate student at MIT at the Media Lab. I'm working on my PhD with Tresnik. We have a lot of fun there, as I hope you'll get a sense of. So this idea of the third wave, I thought I would try to zoom out and talk about the big picture. It's a chance for me to sort of learn from the history a little bit. I realized actually coming in here that it's a little crazy for me to try to talk about the historical picture and the big ideas in a room full of people like you guys, but hopefully I'll have something that's interesting to you and maybe a little provocative. And then the other part of the talk that comes at the end is what we want the future of computing to look like. And I'm going to ask you to actually take that seriously and say, what do we really want? Not what new ideas come out of technology, but you know, what do we think in terms of human development and what we really want for our kids? Oh, I should say also one caveat about my kind of big picture ideas and historical perspective is that obviously it's going to be a little bit MIT-centric, so you might take issue with how I frame things, but I'm pretty indoctrinated coming from where I come from. Here's my kind of big picture that technology for children has been influenced by these two big waves so far, the personal computing in the 80s and then the internet, of course. And so I'll talk about how I think we can draw some ideas from those. And then the question is, are we entering a third wave, something that's just as influential and powerful on children's technology as those first two? And if we are, what is that thing? So you can think about that. And then I'll tell you one idea that I have. So, of course, the first wave is personal computing, and in particular, kids' involvement with it. So this, I think this is a pretty interesting picture because, well, here's my question. When, if you aren't familiar with this, some of you have probably seen it, when do you think is the earliest somebody could have conceptualized this? Kids sitting in the grass with their, what look like tablet computers. Yeah. What year? You know.
Oh. 1968?
Wow, that would have been impressive. Actually, Alan Kay drew this in 1972, and I think that's pretty impressive.
It's close.
So, you were close, that was pretty good.
Close.
A lot of amazing stuff happened back then.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember in the paper.
Many things were invented that we now take for granted at that time. So Alan Kay, if you don't know who that is this computer scientist who he actually invented some pretty cool stuff all the way back then. You might be familiar with the idea of a graphical user interface that has windows that can actually overlap with each other. He was the first one to do that, and you may have heard of object-oriented programming. That's him. Pretty cool. And so he had this vision all the way back then of what he called the Dynabook. So it's worth talking about what his vision looked like because he predicted a lot of things really accurately. If you go back and look at this 1972 paper, you can find it online. He talked in a lot of detail about what this beautiful, ideal children's machine would look like in terms of the technology of the day. And it looked a lot like the iPad, but not exactly. So you can see in this description of it that he's talking about it being really personal. 1972, people didn't use computers in the woods, but that's what he knew that we were ultimately going to want, that it would be portable, superior to books in printing, at least in some ways, without being markedly inferior in others. But that first part of the quote, up at the top, I think is really interesting and powerful, and it's something that we can still maybe strive for. So what does this mean? It's a little heavy. A medium for containing and expressing arbitrary symbolic notions and also a collection of useful tools for manipulating these structures with ways to add new tools to the repertoire. So what he's talking about here is a belief in the power of this sort of infinite flexibility of computers. And I think it's something that, to some degree, we've lost a little bit. I think software developers have a sense of this power when they create things, but we're not sufficiently handing it over to children. So that's an early vision of what computing for kids could look like. When he talks about adding new tools to the repertoire, he definitely didn't mean buying new apps from the App Store. He meant something pretty different from that. So I've actually had the chance to interact with Alan Kay, he's a very interesting guy, and so I got the chance to ask him, is the iPad the Dynabook? Here's what he wrote in the email. What is really weak, and artificially so, is the service conception of the iPad as an automated media consumption device, rather than as a gateway and environment for exploring powerful ideas by building them on the grand side, and for simply allowing end users to make their own. This is both bad and stupid and actually retrograde on Apple's part. He doesn't mince words here. It's a bike with too many training wheels, and done well enough so most people would not realize it has training wheels. It distorts what a bike actually is. So he's saying that there's more to computing than what we're giving to kids. So that's an early vision of what personal computing could be. And of course, I want to talk about Seymour Papert's ideas a little bit. I'm curious, actually, I could talk a little bit about Logo, but most of you are probably familiar with it. Who's written a Logo program? Most people have actually written Logo code. That's great, but not everybody. So if you haven't, this was invented at MIT by people including Seymour Papert, and it came from this idea that educators were starting to say in the early days of computing that we could have computers program children, but why not have children program the computers? It was a crazy idea at the time, and so he invented this way for kids to explore this world of graphics on the screen and do geometry by issuing commands to a little turtle that could move around. And it was really about tinkering and exploration. And so the bigger picture of this is not that it's about like teaching geometry, but it's about creating ideas and new artifacts that are personally meaningful and allowing kids to sort of pursue their own interests and make what they wanted to make. Actually, I'm going to mention constructionism here because it came up earlier, and I'll give my own description of it. So what Papert was doing, of course, comes out of Piaget's ideas about constructivism, so the word with the V about sort of building knowledge in your head. And the word at the end, constructionism, is about making things in the world. So not just building ideas in your head, but doing that by creating artifacts that have some personal and maybe social meaning. So I wanted to include this quote from Papert's book, MINDSTORMS, which talks about the impending logo revolution. Unclear whether that really happened, but the vision is a really beautiful one. So computers as these space-age objects that will enter the private worlds of children everywhere, and we know that that's happening now, but he was writing this, oh, what year was MINDSTORMS? Early 80s, I think. Anybody know? Around the time that I was born.
Ouch.
Sorry.
Gratuitous.
Yeah, whippersnapper!
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
So it's just worth pointing out that the book and the vision that Seymour was talking about is much bigger than Logo and kids programming computers. It's first of all about powerful ideas, about these really generative concepts that kids can stumble into and, in some sense, build on their own. So they're geometric ideas, but in the world of Logo, ideas like procedural encapsulation, modularity, feedback, recursion, these are big ideas. And he thought that we could build environments like Logo, other microworlds, that could allow children to stumble into and create other powerful ideas on their own. And that these could be the seeds of cultural change. So it's this larger vision and allow people to form a new relationship with knowledge, cutting across the sciences and the humanities. That's pretty forward thinking. And even get into knowledge of the self, which is, I think, a powerful thing that's still relevant today, that we can still work on. Some enduring ideas from the first wave, especially coming from Papert, are that we learn by creating and building on our own interests, and that's what we should use personal computing for kids to do. So on to the second wave. So still being MIT-centric here, obviously the internet has been really powerful in children's technology, and especially for doing collaborative, online, creative stuff. And so the lens that I have on that is through a project called Scratch. Okay, I asked about logo. Who's written a Scratch program? Probably fewer of you. But a lot of people, wow.
Oh, actually.
That's pretty good. A lot of people, I guess, are familiar with Scratch, but if you're not, it's continuing in the tradition of Logo, of a programming environment for children, but it's really about media now. So you can use your own artwork and graphics and animations. You can bring in your own sounds and audio and create a huge variety of things, interactive art and animated stories and games. And it's this programming environment that uses these graphical blocks like Legos that snap together so that you actually can't make syntactic errors. So we're trying to remove some of the frustration of programming. And the other important piece of it, of course, you can see on the other side there is this website that we have for kids to share their projects. And that's been a really powerful thing. We launched Scratch about 4 years ago, and now there's almost 2 million projects that kids have created that are on the site, which is pretty exciting. One of the things that we're seeing happening is this phenomenon of remixing. So kids post their projects on the site, you can see and interact with them, but also every project you can download and modify and then upload your own modified version of it to the site. And then it shows up with a remix history. So in this case, it's a kid has used this little lizard character chasing an ice cream truck and said, add your own character to the scene. So they've come up with their own ways of encouraging remixing that we didn't anticipate. And we were able to show the kind of trees, the history of how remixing is happening. And that's been interesting as a research topic. Another form of collaboration that we're seeing with Scratch are these companies. And this was pretty cool. We didn't anticipate this either. In the early days, a group of kids formed, calling themselves Gray Bear Productions. And they decided that they were going to be a game company, and they would divide up tasks. They're actually distributed all over the world. I think one of the kids is in Australia, one in England, and one on the east coast of the US. And then they grew and grew. And they divided up into doing things like, I'll be the animator, you're the programmer, I'll work on the storyline and the art. And you can see here some of the games that they've worked on over time. And then this model got mimicked by other kids. They really love thinking of themselves in the role of the game developers whose games they normally play. And they want to do things like launch trailers and previews for other kids to get them excited. So that's been a powerful new form of collaboration that we're seeing. And I should mention we're working on Scratch 2.0, the next version, and one of the things that we're really pushing hard on is helping kids collaborate in these ways. We really didn't design around this form of collaboration in the first version, so we're hoping to create a lot more of that for the future. Okay, so far we've seen some ideas about personal computing and then about the internet as those affect computing for kids. So what comes next? How am I doing for time?
Keep plowing.
Keep going.
I think it's only been 14 minutes. Yeah, only been 14 minutes, so we're halfway. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I love cool stuff. So what's this third wave? You probably have some ideas. Here's one idea, which maybe you weren't thinking of. It's not as obvious. So technology that engages your body and the world. So I'm really talking about how there's this problem that it's very easy for our devices to create a focus on themselves and technology in general to refer to itself. And so we should push back against that, I think, and try to make things that bring the focus back out onto you and onto the world around you. And so we're seeing that with things like the Wii and the Kinect that engage your body, and even, I think, things like gestural computing as a way to make your interaction much more intimate, like we see with the iPad, is part of that. But I want to talk about some of the other projects that are going on in the research group that I'm part of that I think bring out these ideas in some new ways. So, I think I have time to show all of them. I'll talk about something called color code, which is a new modification of Scratch, a draw audio, singing fingers. Actually, I don't have a glow doodle demo, but you might have seen that at a previous Duster Magic. That's a light painting system that allows you to sort of explore the objects in your world and use basically anything that glows or even reflects light well as a paintbrush. So it's about using the materials around you in a new way. Okay, so now I get to demo singing fingers. This should be fun. So I want to try to get this camera up there, if we can. I'll show you. Now, so this is an iPad app that I developed in collaboration with one of the students at the lab. And oh, we didn't hear. Okay.
Yep.
And it's about finger painting with sound. I'll try to adjust things so that you can see it well. So there are the singing fingers. Thanks, cool. So the idea is, if you haven't seen this already, you draw on the screen and make a sound at the same time. So it's like this. And then you can touch your drawing to play the sound back.
Oh.
Does that come out? You can also talk into it. Singing fingers. Singing fingers. Singing fingers. So that's pretty fun. Thank you. Oh wait, there's more. You may have noticed that there's different colors. So I actually use a pitch tracking algorithm to map pitch onto colors. So if I sing a scale, I'll actually get a rainbow. And now I actually have a little instrument that I can play.
What's that? Got like 10 minutes left.
You want to hear the multi-touch part too?
Oh my.
I was a little out of tune, but you get the idea.
Sweet.
So I want to just play around here and show you that it's not just about vocal sounds. You can record any sounds and make a drawing with them. So I'll invite Columbo up to help me out here. I don't know, just jam out and I'll draw with it. We'll start with that. Anyway, you get the idea.
Does it just have to be, is it always a musical sound, or can it be, can you tap on the desk? Can you?
Achoo! You can like.
Right.
Make
So what does a
percussion
sneeze look like? That's nice. Yeah. That's so great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
He's so the graduate student that I collaborate with on this, Jay's little brother is Turner's roommate. So we know each other. Yes. He's a good guy. So let's see. I'm soaking up my time here. So I want to show you a video.
Is that available?
Oh. Glad you asked.
Got a lot of fingers poised on the buy button.
And all the time.
Ooh.
I give it away. Yeah, just search for Singing Fingers. There's an iPhone version. The iPad version came out more recently and works way better because the pitch tracking and sound synthesis are the result of a lot more work. So give it a try. Yeah, thank you. I'll just show you a short video that gives you space.
Singing fingers, singing fingers. All right, all right, all right.
Oh, God. Uh-oh. Yeah, I had the same problem. We had the same problem yesterday. It's a problem with really large video files, quality-wise.
Maybe you could guess what happens next. If you go to singingfingers.com, you can watch the rest of that video. A bunch of cool stuff happens.
Is that on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, it's on Vimeo, it's everywhere. But just go to singingfingers.com, and you can see it there. Okay, so... the next thing, in the same vein of trying to bring the interactivity out into the world and get people exploring, is this new thing we're calling color code. We haven't even shown this to very many people, it's brand new. I actually just made this video a few days ago, so it's still in the works, but I'd love to hear what you think about it. So this is, it comes as a new feature for Scratch that we're hoping to add for the next version. And the idea is to use computer vision techniques to allow kids to create their own augmented reality experiences by using the colors of everyday objects in the world. So like here in the still, and then you see in the video, I'm holding up Cookie Monster, a little plush toy, and on the screen, this is the Scratch environment where we've programmed these little cookies to move around. And we've set it up so that Scratch is sensing the blue color of Cookie Monster, and then the cookies can tell if they're touching that blue. Everything else is black and white. And so we just sense the blue, and you could probably guess what happens when we touch. Hopefully this video will work okay. So now I can use anything else that's blue. So that's actually a bottle of paint. Here's one of our little advertising cards for Scratch. And if I hang that from my necklace, I have a whole different kind of game that I created just by using the physical materials around me in a new way.
Cool.
So here we're playing with autumn leaves and sensing their colors in order to make basically a platform game where the platforms are being moved physically by people's hands. The little jetpack girl is being moved by a keyboard, and then there's that target, which is actually a bouncy ball. Here we are using some M&Ms to make a edible sequencer. So each color of an M&M represents a drum sound. We move them around in time, and then the Scratch project plays back the sounds.
That's too awesome.
So,
Get off my lawn!
I know.
this is the new stuff, Warren. This is what kids are going to be doing in the future. So, of course, it's not just about those examples. It's about kids creating their own things like that, using the power of the Scratch programming environment and extending that out into the physical world. Okay, so one more example. This one's a little crazier. It's not an app, it's not on the computer, but it does this thing of engaging you with exploring the materials around you. Anybody familiar with Draw.io already?
Yeah.
He's nice.
Yeah,
Nice. So, see what happens here. So it starts out as a musical pencil. You can draw your own musical instruments. But it's much more than that. We can take the circuit right off of the pencil and put it onto a paintbrush. Same technology, same device. And what if we take it off there and put it onto literally the kitchen sink? Now we can play music on the string board.
They're dating your daughters. teach these
with
kids?
Jay, the graduate student.
Well, you
training?
would hope.
Again, there's more to that video. There's lots of other cool things. You can make chains of people. You can play music
Never
on
need to
plants.
date again.
You can play music with food. We have a shot of us with a bowl of macaroni and a Dradio fork. There's all kinds of stuff.
Is that video online? Or?
So yeah, if you just
So
go
you-
to...
You could slurp your spaghetti and
Absolutely. If you go to dradio.com,
Okay.
you can find out more about that. We have partnered with some companies that make kits, so you can make your own at home and do workshops. And we've done workshops with kids around the world, and with things like using various kinds of conductive materials, including food and plants, to make musical instruments out of anything.
Jim Margraf, eat your heart out.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my first thought. Yeah.
I know that Darren has struggled with his sons with potty training, and I'm just seeing an app there, maybe. Or,
Yeah, that would totally work.
maybe in airport restrooms there could be turn that row into an orchestra.
There's actually a guy at the Media Lab years ago who had a project called You're in Control.
Oh boy.
Haze rap.
And you're in trouble. So
That's so
Okay,
funny.
so I'm almost out of time here, but I want to get back to the what do we want part of the talk. So I left this for the end because it's about these sort of deeper ideas, trying to rise above these waves of technological change and say, these are things that have been there from the beginning, and they still represent big challenges. When we talk about engagement, at least when I say that, I mean something bigger than getting focused on what's right in front of you. I mean real deep engagement, pursuing things that you're passionate about. So if you think about like your own path through life, what got you involved in children's technology? Why are you pursuing that now? What factors allowed you to go take that path? That's the kind of engagement I'm talking about, pursuing your passions. And so sometimes I worry if the trend towards apps is towards bite-sized experiences, which don't allow people to go deep in that way. So I think we should push in that direction. Even harder is empathy. So this is clearly something we need more of in the world, helping people understand each other's perspectives. And the role of technology here is actually not clear. There have been some hints at it, even here at this conference, of people doing really interesting stuff. But I think if we're honest with ourselves and ask, for example, do current sort of paradigms about using technology for social networking actually address our ability to understand each other in this deep way? Well, that's a hard question, but worth asking. And then the last thing is empowerment. And I mean something different from the way other people have used that term here, I think. I mean not just that, I can do it, meaning I did what somebody else set out for me, but that I can do something that I choose, that I can find autonomy, I can discover my identity, things like that. So the bigger sense of empowerment is really important. So I want to leave you, again, return to Papert and leave with this quote about the kind of challenge that he was posing, about how to think about education in the larger sense and how computers affect that. So there's always been this divide, and there will continue to be, about sort of what kind of people do we want to create in the world? Do we want people who are good at following instructions and doing things that are set up for them by others, or do we want empowered people who can make their own decisions and shape their own lives? So that's the end. Thanks. You can go to ericrosenbaum.com and find most of the stuff that I showed you there.